thought I would discuss the interconnected nature of goal setting, tracking student progress, and celebrating student goals. Please work, please work, please work.
Design question 1 reads, what will I do to establish and communicate learning goals, track student progress, and celebrate success? And the first part of that is probably the most important, and that is establishing and communicating learning goals. That's the foundation for everything. It really is. And a learning goal is just that. You know, it's what's the goal for this lesson, what's the goal for this unit. It has to be stated clearly and communicated clearly to the students. You could say that across the country, given the standards movement that's been going on for the last 15 years, the teachers are pretty well aware of the goal they should be addressing. But the question is, are the students aware of the goal? And so in a classroom that's actually doing this question well, you know, you could ask the student, so I see you reading the text here. Why are you doing that? Maybe people say, because this helps us better understand, you know, the topic of habitats, and that's our goal, to better understand like that. They would actually know. And that doesn't happen in a lot of classes, the classrooms. The classrooms where it does, I would assert, you're going to see achievement better than, looking better than the classrooms where it doesn't happen. And a lot of things, once you have a clear learning goal, a lot of things kind of fall into place. Teachers clear, students are clear about what the goal is. Now that should guide your assessment. You know, all assessment should be designed around this learning goal. I'm real partial to a rubric-based approach or a scale-based approach where teachers actually have a rubric. So I like the term scale better. They write for the learning goal. It's real clear for students what you need to know or be able to do for the 4, the 3, the 2, etc. All assessments are organized around that. What kind of really is nice about that is students can track their progress over time in a formative sense, so they can see they started here, you know, but ended up over here. But again, strong learning goal. You know, now you can assess like a rubric-based approach. You know, students can track their progress, and then at the end you can celebrate success. And success looks 2 ways now. If you're actually tracking progress over time, one is what they call status, and that's where you ended up. You know, so I'd be, you know, it's a little rubric here, 0 through 4. I ended up with a 2.5. You know, that's status. But you can also celebrate growth. I started at a 1, you know, and now I'm at 2.5. So that's pretty powerful when you can do that. You can say, let's look at status. How many kids got 4s, 3s, 2? Let's look at growth. Now everybody, virtually everybody, has something to celebrate in a system like that. Even though I didn't, you know, attain the 4 and you did, I got a 2.5. I started, you know, at a 1, you know, and you started at a 2.5. So we both grew the same amount, even though you started at a different place. So it's a real focus. I mean, it's the fulcrum, if you will, you know, of all good instruction. One powerful piece of setting learning goals is to involve the student in that too. And this doesn't have to be the case, but it's really powerful if, you know, teaching does this. And I'm the teacher, and I'm pretty clear about the 2 learning goals relative to students' understanding of polynomials or students' understanding of a reading strategy, you know, that I want to get across. But if there's any way of having students develop their own goals that are related to mine, it's tricky. It's tricky. Sometimes it's straightforward in the sense that students will say, well, you know, the goal about learning polynomials, I'm real clear, I want to get better at this, and therefore I'm just going to say, well, on the scale the teachers developed a rubric, I want to reach the level 3, you know, by the end of the unit. Sometimes it's not that easy, where students aren't internally motivated to learn polynomials. You can still do it though. If you can have them identify something in their own life that can be clarified by their knowledge of polynomials, you know, you've got them hooked. And you might say, well, what can that possibly be? Well, actually, for example, I'm using the example I got from a teacher, where a student was a big football fan and realized that quarterback ratings in football are polynomials. And so what the student did is started studying the equation, I believe they have, for quarterback ratings. I guess there's one for the pros, and there's one for college, and there's one for Canadian football. But that's polynomials. So if you're a little bit creative about this, you know, you can usually find something or help students find something that they're intimately interested in that is somehow related to the content. And boy, if you've done that, you've won. You won the battle. I mean, they're engaged now.
Okay, so that's just a brief little overview regarding design question 1. The second big group was lesson segments addressing content. Now, this category is basically what it's fundamentally what you do every day. You are either helping students interact with new knowledge, you're helping students practice and deepen new knowledge, or you're helping students, what Marzano says, generate and test hypotheses. The reality is that, in my opinion, it should be restated in that you're helping students deal with cognitively complex tasks. And he uses that terminology, but the actual title of that design question is in regards to generating and testing hypotheses. Since I have a science background, I have a hard time with that because I use it too much in a literal sense. But in this group, essentially what Dr. Marzano says is that it's a gradual release of responsibility, from teacher control down to student control. And the thing that is similar in all of these, in design question 2, 3, and 4, one word that you'll see throughout those is the word organizing students. So there's a specific way or a specific difference in how you organize students if you are just helping them interact with new knowledge, practice and deepen with new knowledge, or you're helping students with cognitively complex tasks. So that was one of the key things that was pointed out to us in our training, was how you organize students differently in the classroom depending on which segment you're working on. Lessons enacted on the spot include design question 5, 7, 8, 9. Design question 5 is engaging students, 7, recognizing adherence to rules and procedures. And here are the other 2 that we're going to focus on. We've got 3 that we're going to focus on to try to get everybody to, as excellent as they can be this year. Design question 8, establishing and maintaining effective relationships. Why? Because it matches our goal of unconditional positive regard. Design question 9, communicating high expectations for all students. It is relevant to our interventions, specifically at the foundational level of how you deal with students in the classroom. So that's why we chose those 2 from lesson segments enacted on the spot. Some of Dr. Marzano's research supports that there's a couple of power elements, just like I showed you with the design question 1. The power elements that he found in his research are when teachers corrected or did these practices really well in their classroom, the ones that had the most effect on student achievement were encouraging, 32 percentile gain in student achievement, and the duration of the interaction, meaning how long you might have paused and interacted with a student, that what you might consider low expectancy. Low expectancy is not the concept of, I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead of myself. We'll stick with design question 8, Dr. Marzano discussing the need for teachers to establish and maintain effective relationships with students.
Design question 8 is about relationship. It reads, what will I do to establish and maintain relationships with students? And just off the top of your head, if you ask the teacher, what's one of the most important things that happen in the classroom, a lot of them would say, well, it's the relationship that I have with students. And we've written about this for a long time, people have, and it's kind of just intuitive, of course. But now when you get down to what does a good or an effective relationship really look like, that's where research gives us some guidance. And depending on who you read, you get different terminology for this, but I think most people would agree that there's really 2 parts to it. One is a message to students that hey, I'm the teacher and it's my job to lead us and guide us, and I will do that. Yeah. In other words, you can say, the teacher's given the message, look, I'm in control here. That's my job. That's my responsibility, both to take us a certain way academically and behaviorally. And I'll do that. The second message that has to be there too, equally as important, and not at odds, but certainly not parallel, is, and I'm your advocate. You know, that we're a community here. We help one another out. So it's like, I'm in control, behaviorally and academically, I will live up to that responsibility, and I'm your advocate. You know, and I'm going to help you. Your success is my success. Your failure is my failure. Interestingly, some of the theorists on this area say that when teachers first enter the profession, they're better at one than the other. They're better at the guidance. Excuse me. They're probably better at the I'm your advocate than they are at being able to be in control in a proper way. When I was a young teacher, they used to talk about don't smile until Christmas. That has nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it. It's not acting tough or being aloof. You know, it's having things like clear goals, clear rules and procedures, being consistent about all that stuff. So that's what communicates I'm in control. They say that even though if you're a beginning young teacher, I should say, you know, you're better probably at the I'm your advocate than the control. If you stay in the profession anywhere from 6 to 8 years, you probably get good at the control part, but a lot of times you forget the advocacy part. So this is an area that you're always monitoring. You know, it's like, okay, let me look. What are the messages I'm giving about control? You know, they know the behavioral rules. They know the kind of academic routines. Yes, but am I also giving them the message that, hey, I'm your advocate? And so it's something that throughout your career, you know, you can always work on. I think it's one that, you know, it really hooks teachers a lot when they say, okay, it's the advocacy part. And we even say, pick a particular student. You know, pick the students they're not doing so well with. Pick them as a concerted effort to give the message, I'm your advocate. Not their buddy. You're still the teacher, but you're their advocate. So be interested in them. Find out things about them. Talk to them. You know, and it's amazing how that can change a student's perception. I would go so far as to say you can change students' lives, you know, by focusing on this teacher-student relationship issue, you know, and the notion of advocacy with students who are disenfranchised in your classroom, maybe the entire school. You know, it just changes the whole experience.
Did he say anything that surprised any of you? Or did it seem pretty common sense? If you are nice to kids and you have a good relationship with them and you're respectful with them, that's going to give them the best foundation for a good learning experience. The elements that are actually within the maintaining and establishing effective relationships are numbers 36, 37, and 38. They're called elements. Understanding students' interests and backgrounds. In your presentations, in your daily class period, do you often refer to students and refer to something that they're interested in? Is it clear that you have an interest in your students and you know something about them?